Most people think you can judge a speech by the words. That's wrong. In real life, and especially on a stage, your body votes first. It tells the audience whether to trust you, whether you're prepared, and whether you're comfortable, long before the message even lands. And tonight, the contrast is so sharp you can feel it through the screen. I'm Scott Rouse, a body language expert and behavioral analyst. For years, my work has lived in high-pressure rooms where words matter, consequences are real, and people don't always say what they mean. I train law enforcement and military personnel in interrogation strategy and behavioral interpretation. How to read someone when the stakes are high, how to detect stress when it's trying to hide, how to separate ordinary nervousness from something more complicated, and how to recognize those moments when a person's performance sounds polished, but their body tells a completely different story. Because the truth is, the body doesn't lie like people think it does. It leaks. And those leaks show up in timing, posture, gesture choice, breathing, facial tension, eye behavior, and the rhythm of someone's voice. And I'll be honest, I wasn't going to do another one of these breakdowns. These videos can turn into a circus fast, and I'm not interested in feeding that. I'd moved on. I told myself, no more. But then the requests started coming in, and they didn't stop. Over 9,000 of you asked for this specific analysis, again and again, in messages that all sounded the same. Please break this down. Please explain what we're seeing. Something feels off and I can't put my finger on it. When that many people are reacting to the same moment in the same way, it becomes worth examining, not for drama but for clarity. So here we are. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry delivered separate speeches at the Project Healthy Minds Gala, and we're going to go through them with a surgeon's focus, almost sentence by sentence, beat by beat. Not to nitpick, not to mock, not to build a conspiracy out of a blink, but to understand what's happening in real time through the lens of behavior and body language. Because confidence isn't just standing tall, preparation isn't just having notes, and stress isn't just shaking. Those things show up in patterns, small, consistent patterns, that tell you whether someone is grounded or performing, whether they're present or mentally split, whether they're comfortable in the moment or trying to survive it. And let me be clear, the goal isn't gossip. This isn't about picking sides or turning public figures into a sport. The goal is to decode the signal underneath the noise. What does genuine confidence look like when a person isn't trying to prove anything? What does rehearsal look like when someone actually knows the material, owns it, and can deliver it without being chained to it? And what does stress look like when it slips out anyway, through restless movement, awkward pacing, self-soothing gestures, tightened facial muscles, changes in vocal tone, changes in speed, and those tiny timing delays that reveal hesitation or overload? In other words, we're not just watching what they say. We're watching how their bodies carry the message. We're watching whether the body supports the words or quietly fights them. Welcome to Behavior Battles. Tonight's matchup puts Meghan Markle from California in the United States against Prince Harry from London in the United Kingdom. Those are our two speakers, our two performances, our two sets of behavioral signals. And for the next several minutes, we're going to treat this exactly like a controlled comparison. Not a popularity contest, not a tabloid debate. A straight-up look at what the body is communicating when the spotlight hits. Here's the structure. We're going 10 rounds. In each round, we'll watch Meghan first, then we'll watch Harry, and then we'll compare the two side by side. Same environment, same event, similar pressure, but very different delivery. Round by round, we're looking for patterns. What stays consistent, what changes under stress, what looks rehearsed, what looks improvised, and what looks like someone is fighting their own nervous system while trying to appear calm. At the end, the winner is the person who shows the most stable confidence. Not loudness, not swagger, not bravado, but the kind of calm control that doesn't need to prove itself. It's also the person who shows the strongest command of the room, clear pacing, deliberate movement, natural eye line, gestures that match the message, and an overall presence that says, I'm comfortable being here. And finally, we're watching for the fewest indicators of discomfort, self-regulation, or incongruence. Things like excessive fidgeting, repeated adapters, awkward pacing, forced timing, gestures that don't land, facial tension that spikes at odd moments, or behaviors that suggest the speaker is mentally split between the script and the performance. Now, let me underline something important. This is not a moral scorecard. This isn't saying one person is good and the other is bad. It's not a judgment of character. It's a judgment of presentation, whether the delivery reads as grounded, coherent, and believable, or whether it reads as strained, disconnected, and internally messy. Because in public speaking, especially on a stage like this, the body votes on the message whether the speaker wants it to or not. We start with Meghan as she approaches the beginning of her speech, and the first thing that jumps out, before she even says a real sentence, is timing. There's a noticeable pause between finishing the hug and actually beginning to speak, and it's not a blink-and-you-miss-it pause. It's long enough to matter, long enough to be information. Those transitional seconds are where the body often tells the truth, because there's no performance rhythm, yet no momentum to hide behind. Some speakers use that space deliberately. They scan the room, inhale, settle their shoulders, plant their feet, and step into what I call speaker mode, where the body and voice lock into a controlled pattern. Other speakers don't handle that silence as well. They rush, fidget, oversmile, touch their face, adjust clothing, bounce on their heels, anything to escape the discomfort of being watched before they've begun. Meghan's pause reads like controlled staging rather than panic. She isn't frantic. She isn't doing compulsive self-touching. She isn't tugging at her outfit or chasing comfort with nervous movement. She looks like she's letting the room settle and letting herself settle with it, which is exactly what competent speakers do. Before she truly launches into the substance, she references her husband. In a room like this, that doesn't automatically mean calculated in a sinister way. It's social anchoring. It's a quick, clean tether that reminds the audience who she is, why she's relevant in this space, and how she connects to the larger story that everyone already knows without needing a long explanation. It establishes context in one move. Then she opens with a simple line, "That's amazing." And in these first beats, there isn't much body language worth overreading. The beginning of a speech is like the first seconds of a plane taking off. You're still on the runway, still building speed, still stabilizing. You don't judge the entire flight based on the first 30 feet, but those opening moments still matter because they set the tone for what follows, and her tone is steady. Her body looks calm, her pace looks measured, and she doesn't appear to be fighting herself to get started. Then we shift to Harry. He also takes a short pause after the hug, but his transition tells a different story. As he walks toward the middle of the stage, he starts fidgeting with his jacket, loosening it, adjusting it, shifting it around like he's trying to physically talk himself into calm. That's a classic self-regulation move. It isn't proof of deception. Most of the time, it's adrenaline or tension or a nervous system that's activated and looking for a release valve. It can signal performance stress, uncertainty, or simply a person trying to get comfortable quickly because they don't feel settled yet. And what makes it stand out here is the immediate contrast. Meghan isn't moving much and appears already anchored. Harry is moving more, managing more, and it looks like he's still trying to arrive. Not just walking into position, but arriving emotionally and mentally into the speech itself. Even this early, before the analysis gets complicated, the difference is easy to feel. One speaker looks composed from the start, and the other looks like he's still negotiating with his own nerves. As Meghan continues, she keeps looking strong, and what's powerful here is that she isn't trying to look strong in an obvious performative way. She's not busy. She's not acting confident. She's simply behaving like someone who has already settled into the environment and is now letting the speech do the work. You don't see the common, unconscious comfort-seeking habits that usually show up when a person is even mildly uneasy on stage. There's no constant adjusting of the dress, no repetitive hair touching, no jewelry fidgeting, no tugging at sleeves, no quick smoothing motions across the front of the body as if she's trying to physically flatten anxiety. Those are the little tells of a nervous system looking for relief. And when they aren't there, or when they're minimal, it often signals that the speaker is either genuinely comfortable or at least well-trained in holding composure. Even the micro behaviors look clean. She isn't over-laughing to fill space. She isn't shifting her weight every 2 seconds like her body can't decide where to land. She isn't rubbing her hands together or touching her face repeatedly, which are extremely common self-regulation behaviors when a speaker is under social pressure. The absence of. That clutter matters. A calm body reads as authority, not because it's flashy, but because it communicates, "Nothing is wrong here, I'm safe here, I'm not trying to escape." And audiences respond to that instantly. They may not consciously think she's not fidgeting, but they feel the effect. Steadiness, competence, control. Her voice is also doing exactly what you want a voice to do in a formal public setting. A lot of people step up to a microphone and adrenaline hijacks the delivery. It hits the lungs and vocal cords at the same time, and suddenly you get too much volume, too much breath, a rush of speed, or that thin tightness that makes a speaker sound strained. Meghan avoids those traps. Her volume is present without being sharp. Her tone is clear without being brittle. The pacing feels intentional, like she's choosing when to slow down and when to move forward instead of being pulled by nerves. That pacing is important because it signals mental organization. I know where I'm going next. And when a speaker knows where they're going next, the audience relaxes too. Then there's the gesture work, what professionals call illustrators. These aren't random hand movements. They're gestures that naturally land on keywords, important phrases, emotional emphasis, or transitions. When someone is comfortable and congruent, their illustrators synchronize with meaning like punctuation you can see. Meghan's gestures are doing that. They're not too big, not too small, not mistimed. They appear and settle in ways that support her words rather than distracting from them. That alignment, words and gestures moving together, creates a sense of congruence. And congruence is one of the main ingredients of credibility. When the body and the message agree, people tend to believe the speaker more, even if they don't fully understand why. Right now, Meghan's body is working like a support system. It's reinforcing the speech instead of competing with it. It's steady enough that the audience can focus on the content, not the performance. That's what polished speaking looks like. Not perfection, not theatrical confidence, but controlled simplicity. Now look at Harry beside that, and the contrast gets louder. His body seems like it's competing with him, like the speech is happening in one lane while his nervous system is pulling in another. He looks uncomfortable, and it's not just one thing. It's a cluster. One arm keeps shooting outward, and his hand repeats a specific motion again and again. An adapter, a stress release behavior. Adapters are the body's way of regulating internal pressure. The energy has to go somewhere, and if the speaker doesn't release it through breathing and grounding, it comes out through repetitive movement. This doesn't prove dishonesty. It often proves tension. But in public speaking, repeated tension leaks like this can weaken how a speaker is perceived. His illustrators also aren't landing cleanly. They're smaller, lower, and inconsistent, like they're happening because he knows he's supposed to gesture, but he's not fully in control of when or why. And that's important because public speaking is not just a verbal act, it's a visual act. Audiences read authority through stillness, timing, and clean emphasis. When gestures are tight, mistimed, or disconnected from the words, people subconsciously read, "He's not settled, he's not anchored." Even if nobody in the room could explain it, they feel it. Meghan looks like she belongs on stage. Harry looks like he's still negotiating with his own body to stay on stage. Then we see something new from Meghan, a few mouth-grooming gestures. That can be as simple as dry mouth, which is extremely common under stage lights and pressure. It can also be mild self-soothing, an automatic signal that the nervous system is processing something. The reason it stands out isn't because it's dramatic. It stands out because it doesn't look like a frequent habit for her, which makes it a useful data point. It could be nothing. It could be a small nervous tic that only appears in specific circumstances, like a certain emotional topic or a certain type of audience. But here's the key. Even with that momentary leak, she doesn't lose the structure of her delivery. Her face stays composed. Her pacing stays stable. Her gestures continue to align. She isn't spiraling, and she isn't visually broadcasting distress. If it's stress, it's contained. If it's dryness, it's minor. Either way, her performance remains under control. Harry, meanwhile, starts doing things that look more openly odd, things that would catch your eye even if you knew nothing about body language. The leg kick appears, and it doesn't look like natural walking. It looks like tension discharge, like the body is dumping energy because it doesn't know where else to put it. That's the nervous system saying, "I'm activated," but expressing it through motion. On top of that, his movement pattern looks different from what many people would recognize as his baseline. Baseline changes matter because they suggest an internal shift. Increased stress, distraction, discomfort, mental overload, something pulling attention away from the message. Inexperienced speakers often make a specific mistake. They believe movement equals confidence. So they pace, they drift, they march. They roam because standing still feels too exposed. But movement without purpose doesn't read as confident, it reads as unanchored. Purposeful movement has structure, it's deliberate. It's tied to audience engagement. You land in one spot, deliver a point, then reposition with intention to address another part of the room. Unstructured movement looks like searching. It looks like stalling. It looks like trying to escape the spotlight without actually leaving the stage. And that's what makes Harry's pacing feel off. It doesn't look like stage command. It looks like stage management, like he's managing himself rather than leading the room. So in this section, the split becomes clear. Meghan's presentation is clean, coherent, and supported by steady body language. Harry's presentation is disrupted by repeated stress behaviors and odd movement patterns that pull attention away from the message. None of this is a moral judgment. It's a performance read. One speaker appears grounded, while the other appears to be working hard just to stay regulated while delivering the speech. Two explanations start to look plausible here, and what matters is that you don't need to reach for anything sensational to explain the behavior. You can stay grounded in the mechanics of public speaking, because the stage itself creates problems that the body has to solve in real time. The first explanation is straightforward: teleprompter difficulty. If the prompter is positioned too far away, angled slightly off, or scrolling at a speed that doesn't match the speaker's natural rhythm, it turns the speech into a constant micro-challenge. And when someone is solving a micro-challenge every few seconds, their body quietly shifts into problem-solving mode. You'll see it in the eyes, squinting, narrowing focus, longer fixations. You'll see it in the head, small forward leans, slight turns, tiny resets. You'll see it in the feet, little steps that aren't meant to move anywhere, just meant to find a better viewing angle. It's like trying to read a street sign through rain while driving. You keep adjusting because you're hunting clarity. And because the mind is working to decode the next line, the body stays slightly activated. Relaxation becomes hard because relaxation requires certainty, and certainty is missing when the next line feels just out of reach. When a teleprompter becomes difficult, the speaker stops performing and starts tracking. That shift changes everything. Pacing becomes irregular because you're not moving for the audience, you're moving for the screen. Gestures shrink or become awkward because your hands aren't being used to emphasize meaning anymore. They're being used to burn nervous energy. The delivery loses its natural flow because the speaker is constantly thinking, "Don't miss the next line, don't lose your place." And the audience may not consciously think, "He's struggling to read," but they feel the downstream effect. The talk becomes less smooth, less connected, and less confident. The second explanation is different, but it produces a similar outward picture: lack of internalization. This is what happens when someone is delivering words they haven't fully absorbed. The speech exists on the prompter, but it doesn't exist inside the speaker. They don't feel the structure. They don't know the turns. They can't glance away naturally because the moment they glance away, they lose the thread. In a well-prepared talk, the speaker uses the prompter as a guide, like guardrails. They could keep going without it if they had to, because they understand where the message is going. But when the speech hasn't been internalized, the prompter becomes a lifeline, not a tool. That's when you see the intense lock-on, eyes glued, head angled toward the screen, attention split between reading and looking like you're not reading. And that split is exhausting. It creates visible strain because the speaker is trying to do two incompatible things at once: read accurately while appearing natural. Either way, teleprompter difficulty or deeper disengagement, the visible result can look almost identical. The body becomes busy. The movements lose elegance. The delivery starts to feel choppy or mechanical. The speaker doesn't look like they're sharing a message with the audience. They look like they're navigating a script under pressure. And the audience's reaction isn't always conscious. People often just feel something about this is awkward without being able to name why. As the speeches progress, Meghan shows changes too, but her changes read like emotional modulation, not loss of control. Her blink rate increases again and her volume dips slightly. That kind of volume drop is actually common when a speaker touches sensitive material. Emotion doesn't always make people louder. Sometimes it makes them quieter, more reflective, more contained, almost like the voice is being pulled inward. Increased blinking can signal a rise in internal processing. The brain is working harder, the speaker is recalling something, or the emotional weight of the topic is creating more inner dialogue. Importantly, none of that automatically means weakness. It can simply mean the content has weight and the body is acknowledging it. Her gestures shift too. Earlier, her illustrators were higher and landing with sharper emphasis. Now they get smaller and lower. Less punch, less outward projection. That can happen when a person becomes more inward. It can also happen when the speaker's attention narrows onto precision, choosing words carefully, staying controlled, staying respectful. The key point is that even as she shifts emotionally, she doesn't become chaotic. She doesn't start fidgeting aggressive. She doesn't lose her rhythm. She doesn't visually fall apart. Her delivery remains structured, and that structure keeps the audience feeling stable. In other words, she may be processing, but she's still steering. Harry begins walking more, and this is where stage movement becomes a tell, not because walking is bad, but because walking has two very different meanings depending on how it's used. Purposeful movement is deliberate. It's tied to rhetoric and audience engagement. A speaker lands in one spot, completes an idea, then transitions to another spot to address a different section of the room. It looks intentional, like staging in a well-rehearsed performance. Camouflage movement, on the other hand, isn't for the audience, it's for the speaker. It's movement used to discharge tension, to fill space, to avoid stillness, or to mask uncertainty. With camouflage movement, the speaker doesn't truly land. They drift. They pace. They take steps that don't seem to have a destination. It looks less like command and more like searching. With Harry, the walking doesn't read as structured engagement. It reads like self-management. And layered on top of that is the intense teleprompter fixation. In a polished delivery, even when reading, a speaker glances and returns. Glance, connect, glance, connect. They treat the prompter like a quick reference, not a continuous feed. When someone gets chained to the prompter, eyes locked, head constantly oriented toward it, the audience senses dependency. And dependency reads as insecurity, even if the speaker's words are intelligent. It's the same reason you trust a driver less if they stare at the GPS the entire time instead of glancing and watching the road. The behavior communicates, I can't navigate without this. That combination, pacing plus teleprompter dependency, creates mental overload. He's trying to read accurately, keep time, keep his place, sound serious, look confident, and manage the stress behaviors that keep leaking out. When people juggle too many tasks, the body starts producing small glitches, steps that go nowhere, gestures that are too big or too random, repetitive adapters that grow more noticeable, facial tension that spikes at odd times. The whole performance becomes visually noisy. And here's the brutal rule of public speaking. Real confidence looks simple. It looks clean, quiet, and controlled. Performed confidence looks busy. It looks like effort. It looks like someone doing extra moves to create an impression they don't naturally feel. Meghan, meanwhile, makes a decision that protects her entire delivery. She anchors herself. Teleprompters are usually positioned at a distance, and reading while moving adds unnecessary difficulty. If you walk and turn while reading, you chop your rhythm in half. You lose clean timing. You force your eye line to keep refining the text. You create awkward micro-pauses while the brain relocates the next sentence. By staying centered, she removes those problems. She stabilizes her voice. She stabilizes her posture. She stabilizes her eye path. And because she appears familiar with the material, the speech flows through her rather than dragging her along behind it. Even if she's reading, she reads like someone who has rehearsed, like the prompter is simply keeping her perfectly aligned, not keeping her afloat. And that's why the audience experience is so different between them. With Meghan, the audience feels coherence, smoothness, stability, control. With Harry, the audience feels struggle, split attention, visual noise, and a body that looks like it's working harder than the words. Harry continues the same pattern, sideways pacing, those repeated leg kicks, and that ongoing hand motion that never fully settles. And at this point, it stops feeling like a random quirk and starts feeling like a system. The longer a behavior repeats without a clear purpose, the more it reads as regulation rather than style. It's the body trying to keep itself level while the mind is busy doing something else. And that matters because a speech isn't only about the words. It's about whether the speaker looks like they're driving the moment or merely getting through it. With Harry, the body is still doing too much. It's still searching for comfort, still dumping energy, still broadcasting that his nervous system is active. What makes this even more noticeable is what happens to his voice. At certain points, his tone drops lower and his cadence slows down. Now, that can come from a range of perfectly ordinary things. Stress can lower the voice and slow the pace because the speaker becomes cautious, thinking harder, choosing words more carefully, trying not to stumble. Fatigue can do it too. Distraction can do it, especially if the brain is split between reading, performing, and managing internal thoughts. Emotional heaviness can also pull the voice downward, like the speaker is speaking from a more inward place. And then there's a fourth possibility, a deliberate performance choice. Some speakers lower pitch and slow cadence because they believe it makes their words sound profound, authoritative, or important. It's a common technique used well by some people, used awkwardly by others. Here's the problem. Tone doesn't create meaning by itself. Tone has to be supported by the body. If your voice is trying to sound calm and weighty but your feet are nervous, your hands are busy, and your movement is irregular, the audience doesn't experience gravitas. They experience strain. They feel the effort. They feel the mismatch between the seriousness of the delivery and the instability of the presentation. In other words, the speaker is trying to sell depth, but the body is quietly saying, "I'm not comfortable." And the human brain tends to trust the body more than the script. That's where it starts to feel awkward, because the audience is receiving two competing messages at the same time. He also tries to make each line land like it's a monumental statement, like it should echo in the room. That can work when the speaker is grounded, when the stillness, eye contact, and gesture timing support the weight of the words. But when the speaker is pacing sideways, doing repeated leg kicks, and running a constant hand adapter, the delivery becomes visually noisy. It's like trying to listen to a quiet piano melody while someone is tapping a spoon on a glass next to your ear. The words may be meaningful, but the body keeps pulling attention away from them. And once the audience's attention is split, the message loses impact. Now contrast that with Meghan, because this is where the difference becomes sharp. Meghan hits a stretch where she genuinely looks excellent, not just competent, but polished in a way that feels stable. Her gestures line up with her message again. Her illustrators land on the right words. The size of the gestures matches the emotional weight of the point. The timing looks clean, her posture stays steady. And most importantly, that earlier blink tick disappears. That's not a magic lie detector, but it often suggests something very practical, less internal noise. When people are anxious, their mind is multitasking. How am I doing? What's next? How am I being perceived? Don't mess this up. That inner dialogue leaks into the body through blinking, micro-fidgeting, facial tension, and rush timing. When the inner dialogue quiets down, the body simplifies. The face relaxes. The movements become more economical. The speaker looks present. In those moments, Meghan gives the audience a specific impression that is incredibly powerful in public speaking. She looks like she understands what she's saying. She looks like she owns the material instead of renting it from a teleprompter. And she looks like if you stopped her afterward and asked a follow-up question, she could respond naturally, without freezing, without searching, without needing to read. Whether she actually could is not something we can prove from this clip alone, but the projection is what matters because perception drives credibility. Audiences trust speakers who look coherent. They lean in, they relax, they assume competence. And when they assume competence, the message lands more easily. Harry, on the other hand, starts showing lip compression, tight lips, disappearing lips, another classic tension indicator. Think of it like the body physically closing the gate. When someone presses their lips tight, it can signal restraint, holding back frustration, holding back stress, holding back uncertainty, or suppressing emotion. You see it in situations where people feel pressured, judged, constrained, or mentally conflicted. It doesn't tell you the exact emotion. Lip compression can be anger, anxiety, regret, irritation, or even intense concentration. But it does tell you that something is being managed internally. It's the body's version of keep it together. And when you combine that with the pacing, the leg kicks, and the hand adapter, it strengthens the impression that he's operating under strain. As the event moves toward the end, Meghan finishes strongly. She smiles, she shows engagement, and she maintains stability through the close. Now she does rush slightly toward the finish, and that's common. Many speakers accelerate at the end because their nervous system senses the finish line and wants to step off stage. But her rushing reads like normal wrap-up energy, not escape. She doesn't lose the room. She doesn't look panicked. She looks like she's concluding, which is a subtle but important difference. A clean finish tells the audience, this was controlled from start to finish. Harry, however, looks like he can't wait to get off the stage. The leg kick returns more noticeably. The hand behavior continues, and he loses contact with the audience. Less connection, less grounded presence, less sense that he's speaking to the room rather than speaking through the prompter. The nervous movement isn't just a detail anymore. It becomes part of the performance's identity. It reads like anxiety turned up high enough that it starts shaping the overall feel of the speech. And this is where the harsh reality of public speaking comes in. Even if the words are meaningful, a delivery that broadcasts discomfort can prevent those words from landing. The audience is too busy feeling the tension to absorb the point. So when the scores are counted, the winner is Meghan Markle. She looks prepared, competent, and familiar with her script. Her body language supports her message. Harry does not project that same level of preparation. He looks nervous and uncomfortable, and his behavior reads off baseline. Now, I want to be careful and precise. I'm not making hard claims about why. I'm not diagnosing. I'm not declaring certainty about what's happening internally. But the combination of signals, sideways pacing, repeated leg kicking, repetitive hand adapters, lip compression, intense teleprompter fixation, irregular movement patterns, and overall incongruence, creates a strong impression of someone who wasn't fully grounded in the moment. And in a public forum, especially one that is honoring someone, preparation and presence matter. Because the audience isn't only listening to your words, they're asking an invisible question the entire time. Do I trust what I'm seeing? Do I feel this person is in control? Does this feel authentic? Meghan's body language keeps answering yes through stability and congruence. Harry's body language keeps answering, I'm struggling, through repeated stress leaks and mismatched delivery. And that's why the audience feels the difference immediately, even if they don't have the vocabulary to explain what they're picking up on. If you want more breakdown, like this, where we separate real behavioral signals from internet noise, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And comment below, who should I analyze next, and what moment do you want me to break down frame by frame?